And we dim the music down.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the Drip Kings channel, Jimmy Bay, where you will find myself on a rare occasion hosting the show. I am Nick the Geek and I am joined, of course, by the Drip King himself, Jimmy Bay, and our very special guest today, my dear friend, my co-host, my co-compatriot. We are joined by the blondest man in all of wrestling media. We are joined by Simon. Now, today's a bit different. We don't really have an agenda. Today is wrestling is our therapy, because for us, wrestling is therapy. We just want to show up wrestling, shoot some shit, and see what we can come up with. So, Si, I'm going to come to you first. How have you enjoyed wrestling this week?
It's been a good week for wrestling. I think I'm still trying to get used to the 2-hour Raw. You know, you watch Raw and you feel like you've watched half a show. So I think maybe because of that, I've made a little more time. I've watched an entire Dynamite for the first time in a couple of months. We had Wrestle Dream the other night, didn't we? It's been a pretty good week. Bound for Glory's on the horizon. I like this time of year. You know, just before you get to like traditional Survivor Series, Starrcade kind of times. You start in that road to WrestleMania, but you're also in a chill zone with exciting things happening. It's, good time of year for wrestling.
Nice. Jimmy, have you enjoyed wrestling this week?
So I have watched Raw. I didn't catch I caught a little bit of Dynamite. I was interested in seeing the after Wrestle Dream because I said I was going to quit. I watched Wrestle Dream because I literally was home alone, had nothing to do, so I checked it out. I would say about half of what I saw. So I was like, I like the angle at the end of it. So I was like, I'll tune in to see what they're going to do on Dynamite. So I saw a little bit of Dynamite. I still like the Moxley thing. I'm not sure how I feel about the rest of the show at the moment. I got to watch a whole episode to get the vibe back. And then SmackDown. I'm in love with SmackDown again, which is, thank goodness, because for the longest time I was not enjoying it. So they've got me back in now too. So
on the subject of SmackDown, gents, certain tag team debuted this week. The Motor City Machine Guns. Myself, I'm ecstatic that they've skipped NXT. Those two boys are far too good to be in developmental. I understood that Sean wanted them to be in like a player coach kind of role down in NXT, which would have fit for them because Shelley's a great trainer. Hello, Courtney. Shelley's a great trainer. He trained Gargano. He's trained many other wrestlers over the years. But to see them come out on SmackDown to, considering the unfortunate thing with today's wrestling, I don't know if you guys will agree with me, is a large portion of the WWE's live fan base are not hardcore fans anymore. They are casual guys that go to the show, so they don't necessarily know who the Motor City Machine Guns are. But I still think they got a decent pop considering, and the match was tremendous. Jimmy, what do you think?
So I tuned into SmackDown because I was working that night, I think. So I got in a little late, but I got there in time to watch Motor City Machine Guns, which was really that and the Bloodline. I was like, if I could see that, I'm good with SmackDown. I felt like they kind of came out to a little bit of silence, which I expected because, like you said, a lot of the normal fan base of WWE isn't the guys who are watching 60 hours of wrestling a week. But I feel like by the time the match was over, they'd won them over a little bit. And I think that's a testament to kind of Triple H's booking style lately is he's allowing people like Motor City Machine Guns, and you've seen it with Andrade and Carmelo Hayes as well, where he kind of lets them get in the ring, showcase what they can do, and win the crowd over that way. And they did a great job. I'm very much looking forward to this match this week. So looking forward to it.
Well, I watched SmackDown with me this week. We both said the same thing. Them versus DIY is tantalizing. Because it's Shelley versus his number one student in Johnny Gargano, which is going to be damn good. And to see Ciampa go in there with Saban is going to be it's going to be incredible. Let's move on to the Bloodline, as you brought it up. All right. What a great angle. Roman doing the job that we all thought he might not do, because when you and I were watching it, Simon, he just started decimating everybody again. You said, well, this doesn't look great for the Bloodline. If Roman just beats them all up on his own, then what's he going to do? But then obviously the tables turned. Roman got laid out. We went off the show with all the guys throwing up the ones and everything else. What did you guys think of Jay's interaction with Solo? Si?
I mean, there was a lot going on there, wasn't there? There was a lot to the dynamic. I mean, you had him talking to his supposed tribal chief whilst also talking to his little brother. So yeah, it was a good interaction. I didn't think we'd see Jay come into the fold so quickly, but I'm glad it's moving fast. You know, they're not taking 6 weeks to do something that could happen overnight. I actually think it could end up being Jay and Solo at Mania if Jay still got that belt now. Kind of makes sense to me. I'd rather it was Jacob, but let's not get into that. Yeah, I think he's not going to be in 100% until Sammy goes in, which I think you guys were talking about a week or two ago. Sammy's going to be the route to that, and also the route to Kevin completely losing his shit. The segment was great. Like I said to you, it was a little bit. I don't know about this when Roman laid all 4 of them out, but then they turned it around good. And yeah, you've got to end your little shows like that with the good guy laying down, beaten and battered, and needing redemption. It just is the way it works, isn't it?
Yeah. Jimmy, would you like to elaborate on our Sami Zayn theory?
So, as I said, I think people think Jay is the key to getting Sammy to join the Bloodline. I think it's going to be Sammy is the key to joining the Bloodline, because Jay. I saw this out there the other day where people weren't sure what Jay's character was, and it kind of hit me. I didn't really know for the longest time, but it just kind of hit me. Jay is the guy who's out there having the time of his life because he has finally gotten out of the shadow of his family name and is kind of succeeding on his own. Like, so he is literally having the time of his life. He gets serious when he needs to, and that's the Jay I prefer. The stuff works for him, though, not for me, whatever, it doesn't matter. But he's made it clear, he's like, I don't want to talk to y'all. I think Sammy is more of a sympathetic kind of guy that's going to be able to get pulled in a little bit. I think maybe Jimmy might be able to see that and get in Sammy's ear, and then Sammy will get in Jay's ear, and that's how we get full circle here. I'm just so happy that, because there was a lot of other theories that it wasn't going to be Sammy involved in this because they hired Hikuleu, and it was like, and then there was the other one, Lance. It's like, no. We can bring them in after. That's fine. But this needs to be Bloodline versus Bloodline 2.0. And Sammy is just as significant a part as that Bloodline faction as anybody else is. So for us to get there, Sammy's going to bring in Jay, and then we're going to get that moment where, Roman going to go yeet. Crowd's going to go crazy. Sammy and Roman hugging. I'm going to melt. I'm going to lose my shit. I get so frustrated, and I got to stop myself every time I see people saying this Bloodline stuff has gone on too long. Let me tell you something. It's gone on a long time, but they have done an amazing job of keeping it interesting. I would say about 80% of the time. There's been lull moments. I'll give you that. But in any movie story, you're going to have your lull moments. That's how you appreciate the major moments. And we're about to be in so many major moments coming up. So fucking excited.
No, it's going to be tremendous. I am so looking forward to War Games. Like, I love War Games anyway because I'm an old WCW nerd, but I think this has the potential to be WWE's best War Games match they put on because of the emotional stakes going into the match. Sai, I know you're an old WCW nerd just like me. I think this has the potential to be the Horsemen versus the NWO. As far as
there's been a danger, hasn't there, over the past few years with matches like War Games and Hell in a Cell, when you get to that time of year when you're due to have it and you book it and you maybe build it as best you can, but it's always best when it feels like it's a natural story that needs to end in that stipulation, which is what we're going to get this year. Yeah, you're right. The old teams with Sting and the Horsemen, that's what War Games was all about. And it's perfect for them. It's going to be so good. Like Jimmy says, just the moment with Roman and Sammy reuniting, I mean, it's going to be emotional. Wrestling doesn't make me cry that much anymore, but it will do. It's the perfect place to have a blow off and also to set up what happens next, because we still don't know what side The Rock is on. We don't know whose side he's going to take, whether he's taking his own side.
We kind of do. We kind of do. We kind of do. We don't know for sure. But WWE, like they did with the Kevin Owens Cody stuff, allowing a fan to film it and break it on social media. When The Rock showed up at Bad Blood, there is a fan footage of Solo in the crowd talking to Jacob and the boys, and he turns around and says, "This is all part of the plan." So it is implicating, at least, that The Rock is actually the leader of the new bloodline, which I'm fine with. And I've said it 1,000 times. Jimmy agrees with me. We're getting a triple threat at WrestleMania. The Rock's 1, 2, 3 throat slit was him saying triple threat at WrestleMania.
I think it was 1, 2, 3. I beat you, Cody. I think that's what that was. But
Possibly.
We still need to find out what it was that The Rock gave to Cody on the Raw after WrestleMania. This is a mystery. It's kind of like who drove the limo with Hogan back in the day. We need to find out what that was, because it's going to mean something.
Okay, so me and Sai talked about this briefly. Nick, I'm interested in your take. What do you think it was that The Rock handed Cody Rhodes?
I think it was the cufflinks that Dusty gave The Rock 10 years ago.
Okay, I didn't know about these, so that's interesting.
Yeah. Dusty Rhodes, the reason The Rock is such a fan of Dusty Rhodes is because he was his favorite wrestler when he was a kid. When The Rock first broke into the business and Dusty was just coming back at WWE backstage, they met beforehand. They did a thing, and Dusty was like, "You're going to go far, kid. Take these." And he gave him some cufflinks. Now, I know Simon thinks it's the watch.
Yeah, that's definitely what it is.
Cody gave to The Rock, which I think is probably more likely. But to me, for the emotional stakes in the storyline, I want it to be those cufflinks. Because that means something to Cody more than the watch.
The watch was everything to Cody.
True.
Because the watch was what Cody cried when he had to pawn that off, because that was supposed to be his watch. And we know that they went and bought that watch. Like, at least the smart fans. We know that they went out and found the watch and they bought it. So to bring it into the storyline just made the most sense to me. Because like I was telling Si, I don't think it's the lighter, because you can't do it. No. So Cody would have had to just beat the piss out of him right then and there. Like, you almost killed my dog, buddy. You're dead. And then the part of the, was it Ulafala? It's fully intact, so it can't be. It can't be that either. It would have made no sense. That was a weird theory that some people had. I don't know where they were going over there. But the watch makes the most sense to me. But the cufflinks is interesting because I never knew about that. So
Dusty gave him to The Rock when The Rock was breaking into the business as like a good luck charm for The Rock to move forward. And I honestly think I'm hoping more than thinking that that's what they tie it in for, because it brings Dusty back into the story, which Cody's always very good at selling emotionally. And I'm looking forward to it. And then there's the fact that The Rock keeps walking past pictures of Dusty Rhodes in the promos, saying, "There's a dream. That's my man. That's the man of the time," and so on and so forth. That was good. But moving on from the bloodline to this bloke. Now, CM Punk is taking some well-deserved time off. A lot of people are saying, "Why is he taking time off? He's only just been back." Because he's old, he's tired, he works with children, and he just had to go through a Hell in a Cell match with Drew McIntyre, which was the best Hell in a Cell match in years. It was the most violent Hell in a Cell match in years. The boy probably needs some time to heal, as does Drew, I would imagine, especially after that bump Drew took into the steps. Now, rumor has it that our dear friend Phil is going to be going up against Gunther at Survivor Series for the world title. Now, Si, I've already explained this to you. I think Punk's going to win because I think they want Seth versus Punk for the world title at WrestleMania. And I think Goldberg is going to be the reason Gunther loses that belt.
My theory was better, so I will tell you.
Okay.
They missed the mark. They missed the mark completely. They should have done it with Sammy. But
no, please go on. Explain.
But it's over. But the idea was Steph beat Gunther last week on Raw with Goldberg interfering, because the world title, you have Sammy versus Cody, which is another tie-in to the Bloodline, because the Bloodline is done with Cody. So during that match, you have the Bloodline get there, and then that's how you would reel Cody back into the Bloodline story, and then he would be the one that gets Jay, like, "Hey, man, I've always had your back. Come on." And then that's how he gets him back in the Bloodline. But they've already screwed it up. They didn't listen to my story, and they went their own way. I'm fine with it, though, because it looks like they're doing a good job. So
it would have worked so well, though. I mean, can you imagine for like Owens as well?
Yeah.
How frustrated and annoyed it'd be if Sammy wins a world title. It just add more fuel to that fight, you know.
And then we get my Sammy versus Kevin Owens WrestleMania World Title feud that I have just that it's literally all I want at this point in life. And Kevin Owens would win the Royal Rumble for it. Oh, I'd get everything I wanted. It was fantasy booking and it's finest for myself.
It'll be pretty awesome. Sai, do you think Punk has a snowball's chance in hell?
Do I think what?
Punk has a snowball's chance in hell?
Yeah, I think part of the reason he's come back isn't just for the money. I think he wants a world title. It's never been a doubt in my mind. I think he might have had it by now if he hadn't got injured in the Rumble. You know, what would have happened? Would he have beaten Seth at Mania last year? Would he have got a shot at SummerSlam? Who knows? But it makes perfect sense. And I think Punk Gunther is going to be a hell of a match as well. That's a sleeper match, but it's going to be great.
I do. A lot of people don't give Punk credit for how well he works with bigger guys. Yeah. Like if you look at the Brock match from a few years ago, that was Brock's best match in years against Punk until he wrestled Bryan and AJ, who yet again were smaller guys that Brock likes working with.
He gave Undertaker his last best match as well.
Yeah. Yeah, he really did.
Yeah,
he really did. Right, but
he's not winning.
No, I want him to. I really want him to. But I think that either Goldberg costs Gunther the belt or that Seth costs Punk. And I think Seth costing Punk is a more logical way to do it at the moment because it sets up their Mania feud. And it means Punk doesn't look bad in defeat because Seth's the reason he didn't win the belt. At least that's how I look at it.
I can see Seth costing Punk. But then again, are we going to really jump into that feud so soon?
Well,
I like the teases of it. I like the teases of it now. And the reason the Drew one lasted so long is because Punk physically couldn't get in the ring. Now we know he can. So to start the Seth thing now, I think you should probably wait at least until the Rumble to kind of really get it going. You could tease it a little bit here and there, but realistically, I think Gunther beating CM Punk clean is probably the way I would do it. If you want to build Gunther up as like the guy, which I think they are and they should 1000%. He's gotta beat Punk. The match itself will be phenomenal though.
Yeah. Just to throw a counterpoint into not building Punk and Seth so quick, right? I've got a theory on this one. I'm just going to throw it out there. Might never happen. But what if Punk and Seth isn't the actual end game? What if that isn't the Mania match, right? What if it ends up being a mixed tag with Becky and AJ, right? Because what's Becky Lynch going to do when she comes back? AJ's rumored to be coming back. Punk needs protecting to a certain extent. That's why he's had strap matches in Hell in a Cells. So why not do the tag? Let's have a couple against couple.
I'd like to see.
No one down like a lead balloon.
No. I'd like to see the mixed tag. I really would, but I don't know if they do it at Mania. I don't know if it's got the stakes they want for Mania. That's all it is.
Sounds like a great Backlash match.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that'd get over really well with the foreign audience. Because I'm assuming Backlash is going to be abroad again next year. So putting Becky and AJ Lee back into that match with Seth and Punk in a foreign town, that's going to help sell tickets. That's going to help push things forward. So I think probably we'll get that after Mania because I really think that Seth wants the Punk match more than anything else.
But that's if AJ comes back. We've been hearing it for so long. I'm of the theory at this point. I'll believe it when I see it. I just don't think she wants to come back and wrestle. I do see her joining Punk down in NXT when he takes over, though. 100%.
Yeah, I can see that.
Right,
what else do we need to talk about today? Right, you know what? We're going to talk about a bit of AEW, gents.
Wrestle Dream.
Right, we're going to talk about Wrestle Dream. So Wrestle Dream was a 50-50 show. 50% really good wrestling, 50% good angles. I enjoyed the Swerve angle with MVP. I thought that was done really well because it helped kind of solidify Swerve as a badass babyface now as opposed to a sneaky heel, which I think needed to be done. I am going to bring up Shelton Benjamin in a bit because if you guys have watched Dynamite, he had a tremendous match against Lio Rush. Like an absolutely tremendous match against Lio Rush, considering he's not been in the ring in 7 months, maybe longer, maybe 8. It's really, really good to see Shelton being pushed as the collegiate All-American that he's supposed to be, that can just decimate people with technique, as opposed to the mid-card filler guy who loses all the time. Now, I'm going to bring up one match from Wrestle Dream the triple threat: Ospreay, Takeshita, and Ricochet. Now, I have a bit of a different take on this than a lot of people, and everybody in this room knows how much of a fan I am of Will Ospreay. I don't think this was Will's best showing since he got to AEW. I think this match was for Takeshita and was for Takeshita alone. I'm really happy for Takeshita. I think it's a fantastic idea putting the international title on him because they've wasted a lot of time with Takeshita over the last few months. They haven't used him in the way he's supposed to have been pushed. Yep. And then there was the whole thing of him going after Okada, and then they put the brakes on that and went, nope, we're going to put him in the international title scene. But I think this is living proof that Don Callis is good for talent.
Some talent, yes.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Yeah. What you're saying about Ospreay, I kind of agree with. It was a fantastic match. But I've seen people out there on X that are saying it's the best triple threat match ever. Now,
no, it wasn't the Unbreakable three-way from TNA.
No, and I think there's been a Mania main event with let me see,
Shawn,
Benoit,
Triple H, and Benoit.
I'm not allowed to say their name, but yeah. I can think of a few that have been better off the top of my head, but it was really, really good. But I get what you're saying. I don't think it's Ospreay's finest moment.
No, I don't either.
But then if you're setting the bar so high,
Yeah. So I think it was almost by design, though. I think if it was going to be Takeshita's moment, what's up, Kiki? Yeah. If it was going to be Takeshita's moment, you don't want people looking back thinking like, oh, Ospreay was phenomenal in that match. You want them to remember it being Takeshita's crown moment. So if that was by design, which I think it was, it's a great idea. I liked after Ricochet and Will did their little routine in the beginning of the match, from the moment that ended up until the moment that Kyle Fletcher got involved, I thought the match was brilliant. It was brilliant. Unfortunately,
how good
the
does
ending.
Kyle look? Sorry to interrupt. How good does Kyle look at the minute?
Yeah,
Kyle is just
peaked. Yeah. He's a person that's going to benefit from Kyle. But that's why I say I think some people need him, some people don't. Like I don't think Kenny ever needed him, but I think Kyle Fletcher can really benefit from Callis.
Yes.
But the ending of that match kind of overshadows how good the match really was, because the ending is very significant in things like this. And it was just, I'm okay with things being overdone, but I want it to not be goofy. And that was goofy because if you spike someone in the back of the head with a screwdriver, there should be blood. This is a place where it calls for blood, and I'm perfectly okay with it. And he shouldn't be like looking at the man and all like, what? You'd want to like beat that man's ass for stabbing you in the back of the head with a screwdriver if you're even conscious at that point. So I think the ending was kind of flat. The beginning, again, not for me. Those aren't enough to like poop on the match completely. I think it was probably the second best match of the night overall to me. It was great. And I'm so thankful to catch the finally got gold. Because that man beat Kenny Omega 2 times in 1 week last year, and we did nothing with him ever since. Man.
Speaking of Kenny, gents, quick one to bring up. I watched an interview on New Japan's YouTube channel the other day with Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega was with Tanahashi, and they were reminiscing about Kenny's last match in New Japan. So did I, Courtney. It was phenomenal. They were reminiscing about Kenny's last match in New Japan, which was, of course, against Tanahashi. And Kenny, by the sounds of it, not only does he want to wrestle the Young Bucks in Tokyo, but he wants Tanahashi to be his tag team partner. Now,
I heard the same thing.
Kenny has apparently had 15 feet of his intestines removed, which, just a little medical fact, is more than Brock Lesnar had removed for his diverticulitis.
Most of which we saw on Dynamite.
Yes, unfortunately, that was all dumped on top of a cake. Because Jack Perry wants to be Raven so badly. He never will be, but he wants to be, to the point that he's cutting quizzical promos on staircases and doing Raven's pose and sitting down in the corner of the ring and everything. Go on.
Well, we're bringing up Jack Perry. I want to go ahead and stick, because I've been a big supporter of the guy since the new gimmick has started. That man has not had a good match since he came back with this angle. He's like, it's not working for me anymore. And that's a shame, because I am a Jungle Boy fan. Jungle Boy, not Jack Perry. because
To a certain extent, is it not part of the deal where if you join the elite, your wrestling level kind of drops a little bit and your storyline character increases? It seems to be the trade that's made. I mean, it happened to Okada, it's happened to the Bucks, and now it's happened to Jack Perry.
I'm not taking that as an excuse.
Okay.
Because he should still be able to have an entertaining match, in my opinion, even if he's not wrestling. Like if he should still be able to. And I think the matches. I think his match at Wrestle Dream kind of killed the momentum that they had, because it started off great, and then all of a sudden the momentum went as soon as he wrestled, because it wasn't entertaining at all. So,
well, if you look at the Bryan match he had a couple of weeks back, it was not good. It was probably
Bryan's worst match in AEW.
Yeah, like Bryan's worst match in AEW, which is, he hasn't had a lot of bad ones in AEW. Bryan's a great wrestler. He can usually carry anybody to a good match. But for some reason, I know Jack wants to be Raven, but if you want to be Raven, wrestle like Raven. Be cerebral. Use your brain.
I feel like he's trying to, though, and it doesn't work for him because he doesn't know how to wrestle that way. That's what I think isn't working, because when he wrestles like Jungle Boy, I'm entertained all the time. I think he's had some really, really underrated matches in AEW. But now he's basically switched his persona, so he's switched his wrestling style, and it's not good. It's just not good. And I'm a guy who, like, if I'm wrong, I'm gonna go ahead and admit I was wrong. So I've been wrong about Jack Perry now. Like, he's totally turned me off of him because it's just not working anymore. Like, do something, bro.
No, it's a fair point.
Yeah.
Sticking with AEW.
Dale says, whose side is he on?
Yeah. We'll find out.
We'll find out soon enough, Dale. Speaking of whose side is he on, well, it turns out the Jon Moxley angle is effectively a violent NWO angle, right? Which is a good thing. This is a good thing. No Shane McMahon, nothing else. Moxley's in charge of the group. I'm really glad Wheeler's gone with them, because what was he going to do if he didn't? Like, seriously, Brian, everybody, by the way, I'd just like to point this out now. I love being right. I was told multiple times on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Brian's winning this match. Brian's keeping the belt. They're not going to do with him. You're a bunch of idiots. He said in a promo, out of character, 3 weeks before Wrestle Dream, I need neck surgery in December. Do you really think a man who needs neck surgery is going to physically be able to carry on having the quality of matches that Brian is used to having while carrying a world title? No.
I would just like to point out how right I was, because I told you that Brian was going to win at All Out or All In, and and I knew he was going to lose to Moxley at the same time. So I was right before you, Mr. Nick.
I know. Yes, fine. Tap yourself on the shoulder. But
he felt so right, and now he feels so wrong.
It happens. It happens. But we'll go on to Moxley and Brian. Tremendous match. I think it was one of John's better matches that he's had in the last few months in AEW. Like, really, really put a showing in. It showed the violent side of Jon Moxley. I was talking to our friend Andy about this the other day, and he brought up a good point about Mox. Mox is one of the few guys. I'll go through the list. Right. What's the Bulgarian guy doing in AEW right now?
Miro.
Being a crybaby.
Yeah, he's in catering.
Right. What's the Canadian dude who came over doing these days? Broke his leg, I believe.
Oh, he's saving people's lives after a hurricane.
Right. Now, would you say that either of these gentlemen have broken away from what they were in WWE to better themselves in AEW?
No.
Well, I'll say Miro did at the beginning for sure, because I still think he probably had the best TNT title run of all of them.
I'll give you that.
I think he did a really good job at first, and then something happened, and now he's nothing. So it's.
I'll tell you what happened. What happened was the angle with the brawl around the arcade machines, where like Chuck Palmer came in the van and stuff like that, and he ended up turning heel as a heel on a bunch of heels, and it made no sense.
But I think his run was after that though. He got away from that, and like he had a great run, and then he disappeared. He came back. He had the thing with Andrade and Lana, which was just weird. He won that and then disappeared again. So it's just, I think he did better himself at the start. I think he's probably done himself no favors since. And as far as Adam Copeland and like, how could you in 1 year, not even a year, like what, 6 months? In 6 months, how could he do anything to kind of differentiate himself from what he was doing in WWE? Like he has a legacy in WWE. He can't do that. I think he's done a fine job. I think he needs to start jobbing out the people though. Just beating everybody is
That's
just
the issue. Yeah.
fucking birds, man. Like
it's what I like to call Ahmed Johnson syndrome. It's like he's living the gimmick and he's saying no to laying down for people. That's not going to get you anywhere. You know, there's only maybe 2 or 3 people in the history of the sport that get to that level where they've earned the right to say, no, I'm not going to put him over. You know, and even then it's frowned upon. But for Miro to do it, no. But 2 points I want to make.
Oh, go ahead.
Firstly, it's further proof that TK does not know how to book the big guys. Never has, never will. And I've forgotten the second thing I was going to say now, but it was a really good point. Yeah.
To this day, I will say Christian had a phenomenal run as TNT champion. I think he had some credibility to it.
Yeah, I love Christian.
Has there been anyone that's gone WWE to AEW that has actually been better than the previous incarnation?
Yep.
Moxley?
John Moxley.
Anybody else?
Swerve, if we're going to count him.
Yeah.
If we'll count him.
Okay.
Literally Swerve.
Yeah.
No,
Tony Storm. Tony Storm for sure. That's
Anybody
all
else?
off the top of my head, I think. Maybe FTR. Yeah, FTR. Yeah, definitely FTR.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think FTR had just as good a run in NXT as they did in AEW.
I think
Not on the main roster.
I would say in NXT they were looked at as one of the best tag teams in the world. I think in AEW they became the best tag team in the world for a short period of time.
That's fair.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
I think they bettered themselves in AEW.
But the point I want to make is John Moxley. We all watched his Broken Skull sessions a couple of years ago, didn't we?
I know where you're going with this.
Right. John Moxley made it blatantly clear when he was in WWE that he did not believe in John Moxley, that he did not identify with John Moxley, that he did not see the vision of John Moxley the way everybody else in the company saw the vision of John Moxley. In AEW, he does. John agrees with who he is there. I think he is one of the only guys that when he was in WWE, as you like to put it, Si, it was a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah. They didn't get the best out of him. I'll go for that. Is the interview the one you're talking about where Stone Cold was basically talking to Dean Ambrose and he was like, so what's next on the agenda? You know, where are you going to take this? And Dean sat there and he just didn't know what to say. And that lazy brain kicked in and he didn't show the ambition and the passion and the drive and the dedication and the goals that he should have done. And that to me was the moment where Ambrose kind of flopped. Right there.
Yeah. And it took a move to DDT and Kenny Omega on a stack of poker chips and many things that followed afterwards to right the wrong of John Moxley. And I truly believe now John is the heart and soul of AEW. Because if you...
Half of it.
No, half of it. All right, because if you look at every time AEW has needed somebody when they've been in trouble for one reason or another, the pandemic, who did they turn to? John Moxley. Punk got injured. Who did they turn to? John Moxley. Brian's injured. Again. Who have they turned to? Punk gets injured again. John Moxley. Brian gets injured. Who have they turned to? John Moxley. John is the beating heart of AEW's title scene now. Like, he truly fits that company. I know AEW gets a lot of stick these days, and I'm criticized for criticizing AEW quite a lot, but I love AEW. I love professional wrestling. I think that company is better for the business. It behooves the business that AEW exists. And anyone that says any different is a freaking idiot. The more places there are for the boys to work, the better it is for the business. Would you agree?
You want to take that?
I agree. I just personally wish, because I'm not going to speak for everyone else. I'm not going to do that. I just personally wish that it would be taken a little bit more seriously. I think it could be even better if it was. I don't even want them to change their like way they're doing like like keep wrestling the way you want to wrestle. Keep putting on the matches you want to put on the matches, but give more people a reason and stop treating them like outsiders. It's
Yep.
I've been called a gatekeeper more times than I can remember, but there's no bigger gatekeepers in the history of professional wrestling than AEW fans. Because the second you're like, hey, I just want to be invited into this story that you guys know, just a little bit, and they're like, go do your research. And it's like, that's not my job. Like if I go to a store to buy a TV and I'm like, hey, which TV is better? And the guy told me, go do your research. I'm gonna go to another store and buy a TV. Like, so
but then
that's my only issue.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
If you do that, you're being spoon-fed.
I only know one way of watching television or some dumb shit like that. And it's like, keep doing what you're doing. Just invite us in. Like, not even me particular, because I'm pretty well versed in what's going on with things. But Amanda, she watches this wrestling with me. And a lot of the time she's just like, what's going on? She doesn't know. And it's like, help her because she wants to be a fan. There's a lot of people she likes. But if she's not invited, she's just kind of like, all right, well, I just guess I'll tune out. And that's my biggest thing.
Well, a large problem I think AEW have is the WCW syndrome of he's the modern day Terry Funkdale, whether you like it or not.
He hates Moxley so much. It's a good question, though.
Moxley winning the weird program, Danielson, or creating a title legacy with Swerve. Now, that is a good point. Myself, as Jimmy knows, I'd had Swerve win it all in. No, I wouldn't have had Brian win at all. I wouldn't have put the belt on Brian because I knew that Brian was going at the end of the year, so I didn't see the point in putting the world title on him. I think it was just Tony going, here you go, thanks. Was the case of why he put the belt on Brian.
Like, you mean like I said?
I know. I'm reaffirming your statement, Jake.
Si, what do you think? What would you have done?
What I would have done is take option C, and I would have thrown the storylines out the window. I would have pissed off every niche fan that's out there that needs to realize that the company needs to make profit in order to continue servicing their needs. And I would have put that belt straight on Bobby Lashley. Pull the trigger. First match. Boom.
Okay. So out of these two options, I actually...
out of those two options, sorry.
I love, everyone knows I'm more driven by storylines than anything. And I'm interested in this storyline they're doing with Moxley. It's interesting. As I said the other day, I think it's NWO violent. Like, that's literally what it comes across as. I'm interested enough to see where it's going to go. So if this storyline ends up being a complete dud, then yes, they definitely should have went with title legacy with Swerve, because Swerve has probably been the third most important signing in the history of AEW.
Agreed.
But I'm definitely invested in a story. They brought me back with this. So realistically, I would have to say the Moxley winning this program. And just so you know, it's Moxley, Tony Storm, Swerve Strickland. Those are the three I think at the top.
You missed Jericho out. Yeah, I was trying to think what you... No. So, Jericho, Kenny Omega. I mean, I'm not a Mox fan, but I'll maybe give him number 3, for work ethic.
I would say Jericho was probably the most important until Moxley showed up. And then I think Jericho has slipped down the list since then. That's just my...
I just give him credit for the longevity and constantly reinventing himself. And, he always finds new ways to get under our skin.
Well, speaking of Chris Jericho getting under our skin, he's got recently under the skin of Mark Briscoe by constantly dropping his brother's name in his mouth. Now, I think that's a bit distasteful, to be perfectly honest. I don't think you should bring up the dead in storylines when it's this close. But if Mark's okay with it, then
I'm sure he is. Yeah, I'm sure.
I'm sure it's been spoken to about it and they've gone through it. They are having a ladder war for the Ring of Honor title on Dynamite this week.
A what?
Ladder war.
Ladder
match, dude.
Yeah,
it's a ladder match. With lots of ladders. The most of the ladder war matches that are famous from Ring of Honor are between the Young Bucks and the Hardys.
Oh yeah, I was making sure I heard you right. I was like, what, a ladder war?
I know you did. They're having a ladder war. Now Mark Briscoe is going to be good in this match. He's had a lot of them. The Briscoes were in a lot of ladder wars. Chris Jericho hasn't had a ladder match in 12 years.
But he also has a big fella's shoulders to stand on.
Oh, he does. And
I guess what I'll say about
I'd
this
like that
is
to be the finish.
I remember hearing a story about Jericho when he was doing a Money in the Bank match with a bunch of young guys before, and they were talking about all these crazy spots they wanted to do, and he was like, "No, we're not doing any of that stupid shit because that's cheap." And I think he understands how you can make a ladder match entertaining without having to depend on stupid spots. Now, is that saying there won't be? I don't know, but based on what he's told me in a clip I've seen, I'm to believe he's going to not do that stupid shit, and we're going to get an entertaining ladder match that's not like the other ones we see.
Less is
I
more.
think it's silly. Why would he get a match if he lost clean? Like, why?
I think this is going to be a case of a Shawn Michaels Razor Ramon style ladder match.
That's exactly what I would like to see.
Where Jericho tries to keep it to a minimum amount of ladders, right? A minimum amount, as you put it, James, of stupid shit.
Yeah.
And just actually tell a story through the match, which is what ladder matches have been sorely missing, in my opinion, for many a year. I'll use the one on SmackDown a couple of weeks ago. It was a fine ladder match between the Bloodline, DIY, and Street Profits. It was entertaining.
It was exciting.
It was exciting. There was lots of clutter, but the story was obvious. There was no way that Tama and Tonga were going to lose. So it seemed they didn't do anything in the match to put jeopardy on their belts.
The Street Profits had me for a second. 1 second
Really?
they had me. Yeah, they did. But I'm a skeptic on things. I want to believe in shit. So
This is fair enough. Fair enough. Right. Well, you mentioned the Street Profits. So, you know what?
wait, before we go on, I want to bring up this because this is interesting. This just happened.
No.
She's announced that she's leaving.
No way.
Oh,
Her
That's
statement.
terrible.
Her statement. WWE Universe, my time has come to an end as your Monday Night Raw ring announcer. I love you all tremendously, and this does not mark the end of my art. I have a lifetime more to share. Thank you to every WWE fan who accepted me. It's the Women's Locker Room. You're the incredible group of people on the face of the earth. I'm beyond proud to be your colleague and friend. Cameron Crewman, thank you so much. Superstars, past and present, I thank you. Since 1989, and will continue to thank you for the rest of my days, raising the bar. But it doesn't get any bigger. I'm proud to have used my voice to let the world know it. So she is leaving.
This is not good for Raw. I think Samantha, they'll just get another ring announcer, but Samantha is probably the best ring announcer in the game right now.
she's really good.
She puts gravitas on everybody's name. She puts feeling into everything she does. She changes the introduction per wrestler, which I like because it gives them all their own little thing. But do we think, if this is the case, that Mrs. Man is going to join Mr. Man in AEW?
Maybe. I'll say this about Samantha Irving. I'm kind of on the other side of the fence here. I know she's great at what she does, and I like how much emphasis she puts on the world, like on the title matches. Mm-hmm. It makes them feel much more blockbuster. But I feel like it's kind of like with the AEW in-ring stuff. Too much kind of lessens it a little bit. And when she does it for every single match and every single person, it's kind of like, okay, I'm not saying she's not great at what she does. Please don't hurt me. Anybody who hears this, she's fantastic. She's one of the best that's ever done it. I think she just dialed back a little bit sometimes.
Okay, no, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. But I'll be interested to see where she goes because obviously she's with Ricochet, and you'd think. You guys brought up a good point about Mox. He is the main course, but times are rough. You may very well call Jericho as the entire restaurant. Look at the substance the TV has created since birth.
Thank you, Mandel.
Fair point, Dale. Many would disagree with you.
Before we run out of time, can I talk about something we were going to talk about before, and then we kind of looped around?
Yeah.
We were going to talk about Shelton Benjamin. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. That's a good deal.
So, have you guys seen what's announced for this week on Dynamite?
Yep.
Shelton versus
Sammy
Guevara.
Shelton versus Sammy. Have you guys seen the quote that Meltzer put out about an hour or two ago? That is called insanity. Let me read you this.
Loved it.
Dave Meltzer writes, in theory, it reminds me of Val Venus versus Christopher Daniels in the days of TNA. You know, like when Uncle Eric came in and brought in all these washed up WWE guys and had them beat the top TNA guys. So before I say another word, what do you guys think about that comparison?
It's fair.
It is fair, but
I
Also
don't like
slightly
comparing.
incorrect.
I don't like comparing Shelton to Val Venus by no means,
No.
but the
A lot
idea.
of people.
Yeah.
Bring in the
Yeah.
WWE guys to beat the TNA guys. I get. I smell a screwy finish. I don't see Shelton beating Sammy clean for the Ring of Honor title right now. And I don't see Sammy losing clean for the Ring of Honor title right now. So
What
I
not-
see an MVP filled screwy finish.
There's no title because Sammy's tag team champ.
Oh, of course, it's a tag team title. Oh,
So
in that
Shelton
case,
Benjamin-
yeah, Shelton's going to win.
Shelton's
Shelton's going to win. But I
Wait,
still
yes,
see a screwy finish.
The way I see the quote, like I pointed out, and I've already had some inbox abuse for this, but you guys tell me what you think. To me, I do think it's a little bit of an insult to Shelton because even prime Val Venus is nowhere near prime Shelton Benjamin.
Yeah, no.
But in the same hand, Sammy Guevara is nowhere near a prime Christopher Daniels.
No.
So it works both ways. I kind of get the comparison, but you know,
He just should have used
you
different
need
names.
you need to bring these
Uh,
people in to get more viewers. You need the names, like household names. Shelton Benjamin is up there. He was like synonymous in the same sentence with Brock Lesnar for so long. And I do like the fact that now he's older. He's slowed down a lot. They've changed his style up. And to me, when I watched the match against Leo Rush the other night that we were talking about, it was almost like Shelton kept some of his old arsenal, but also wrestled a little like Brock.
Yeah, he was the.
I think Shelton is channeling his history with Brock Lesnar to change his wrestling style now that he's getting on in years, and I think it's a good thing.
He's going to be bigger than most of those guys, so he can
Yeah.
kind of adapt himself to be the bigger threat. Because I liked the springboard into the ropes, and then he just said, "Just not." I love it. I like how he mixed it up with a little bit of his athleticism, but then a little bit of his just brute strength on the little guy.
Yeah.
Dale is a comedian. They had
going
to
back
use a
to
bigger
the,
sword for Shelton.
It would have to be.
Choppy.
Going back to the Meltzer quote, does this mean we're going to get a version of the Nasty Boys coming in next? And if so, which tag team is it going to be?
Just repackage 2.0 as the nastier boys. The nasty man.
Just 2.0 rule.
Rules. Can you imagine a 2.0 versus Outrunners feud? Oh my god.
Oh my god.
You could even get the Outrunners just to beef up a little bit and start wearing tie-dye. It'd work.
No, no, we don't touch the Outrunners, Simon. The Outrunners are perfect.
I'm sorry. I apologize for that one.
The Outrunners are perfect. Right. I'm gonna bring up. I'm gonna talk about the Outrunners because I like to talk about the Outrunners. Now,
Fucking tag team in the world.
I think the vignettes they've been doing with FTR, where they were dyeing Dax's mustache and doing everything, have been comedy gold. It's been absolute genius. For me, the only sensible thing to do with the Outrunners is you have them beat the Bucks. I don't care if it's a 2-week title reign. That tag division needs a new coat of paint, and there is no better new coat of paint right now than the Outrunners.
Let me stop you there. We're not having them have a 2-week run
No.
after they beat the Young Bucks, because this is how you cement the Outrunners as a legit tag team for your company. They dethrone the youngest men alive, dethrone the Young Bucks for the tag titles, and then they go right into a feud with FTR out of jealousy, and they beat FTR. And now the Outrunners have solidified themselves as not just a comedy act, but an act that actually beats people, credible people, and your tag team division can flourish. And even if they don't wrestle, they're just like Chelsea Green and Piper Niven when they had the belts. Even if they aren't defending them, give them 30 seconds backstage. They'll give you something. They'll put some shine on those belts, and you're off to the fucking races. This is the big easiest layup in the history of professional wrestling, as far as I'm concerned, with the tag team division. And if they don't pull the trigger on it, I will never forgive Tony Khan.
I feel like I need to acknowledge that as one of the most sensible things I've heard. You made it make sense, but Jim, you forgot the final page of the chapter, right? Once you've elevated those tag titles by using the Outrunners, getting the absolute best out of them, which I agree with 100%. You elevate those tag titles for the next team because you need some grizzled champions.
Yeah. You get some people
Right
who go
now.
in there and just absolutely like demolish them, not like
Yeah.
squash them, but like really just demolish them and look strong as. And then clearly you're going to hate that team that just took down your most overact in the business. or in your company. And it's like, this is
Yeah,
totally
right yourself.
It writes itself. And I completely agree, Si. The Grizzled Young Veterans are the perfect choice to be the guys to eventually beat the Outrunners. They are. James Drake is massively underrated. As a team, I personally think that Zach Gibson should have a microphone attached to him at all times, even when he's wrestling, so we can just hear him badmouth people, because he is very similar to Roman in that respect, that he spends 90% of his match bad-mouthing his opponents while he's beating them up, but you can't hear what he's saying, so put a microphone on the man so he can be heard at all times, because they've already had nothing feels forced with the Outrunners. No, it doesn't. That's the thing. I don't always agree with Dale, but I completely agree with that comment.
I'll let you finish, but then I have one last point to make about them.
Okay. Yeah, but the Grizzled Young Veterans are the perfect opponents for the Outrunners. Not only do the Outrunners represent what wrestling was in the 80s in North America, but the Grizzled Young Veterans represent what wrestling is in the UK, right? And have done for a very long period of time. To have that dichotomy of what wrestling used to be in one country versus what wrestling is now, it's perfect synergy. It just works. It fits together. They'll have a tremendous match. They'll have a tremendous feud. The Outrunners will have been elevated from a hell of a tag run, beating the Bucks, beating FTR, and then to go down to the youngest men alive being beaten by grizzled young veterans just works. It just works. Go on, Jim. What are you going to say?
So the reason that the Outrunners work so well, I think, is the most hilarious thing in all time, because there's been people like myself and you and plenty of other people who have been criticized for being like, you're trying to make AEW into WWE because we want acts like the Outrunners. And like, no. And they had one with Danhausen, and he was over like Rover, and he was working for them until all of a sudden he was best friends with the Enemy. And then we're like, we don't like him anymore. But you can't deny the fact that he still makes him tons of money because they still sell his merchandise left and right. But the Outrunners are literally the kind of act we've been saying AEW needs more of. And it literally is proving people like us right when we said this is what AEW needs. And the fact that the AEW fan base is eating them up is absolutely hilarious to me, because like, you bitches have told me I'm wrong for so long, and now you're eating crow. They're the greatest tag team in the business today.
Yeah.
And they don't do anything except for entertain.
Interesting question. How much, because I don't know where the Outrunners originated and where they got the idea for the gimmicks, which is fantastic, but how much influence do you think that Southpaw Wrestling and the original NWA Power had on those gimmicks?
I have a feeling the Outrunners were a fan of Power when it first came out, when it first came back, because they would have fit like a glove in that like realm of wrestling. They would have fit absolutely perfectly. But I like the fact that you brought up Southpaw Regional Wrestling, because
I see a lot of that in them.
They kind of look like two guys off Southpaw Regional Wrestling. I mean, if you can go back, I'm going to be old now, but you guys both remember the Rock and Wrestling Connection cartoon from when we were kids? Yeah. Well, they would have fit like a glove on that TV show. Right? Like an absolute glove. The fact that the Outrunners have managed to do nothing different, right, in any of their matches, they do the same shit. Right? I watched Turbo Floyd body slam the Grizzled Young Veterans 15 times in a row the other day.
One more time.
One more time. It was amazing. He's just doing a body slam. This is how you get moves over, people. You don't need to do 1,000 flippy dippy doodahs in a match when you can make something mean something.
We can liken it to Bronson Reed in a splash. All he had to do is start doing it to people over and over again, and all of a sudden we're like, this guy is amazing.
Yeah.
It's simple.
It's
so simple.
Well, Paul Heyman is famous for talking about the fact that when he first came back in WWE years ago, he wanted to give Mark Henry a headlock as a finisher. No, and his idea was you stop everyone else in the company doing headlocks. Nobody else is allowed to do headlocks except Mark Henry. And then week after week after week, you have people passing out in his headlock. Well, it's just a headlock, but you do that for 6 months. Eventually, people are going to be like, "Oh my god, he's crushing his brain, doing whatever." I completely agree, Courtney. It works. You don't need to have 1,000 moves in your arsenal. I am the biggest critic of, you know me, I'm about timing and repetition. These are two things that make wrestling what it is. The reason Randy Orton gets over the way he does is because the RKO is the most over thing he's ever had. Yes, he stole it from DDP, who stole it from Johnny Ace, and so on and so forth. But the fact is, it's the most over thing in the company as far as a finisher goes, is Randy's RKO. Why? Because up until recently, nobody else was doing cutters in WWE. Now, you've got fucking Carmelo Hayes doing cutters, and you've got
Everybody
other people doing
and
cutters.
their mother
Is doing cutters,
cutter.
right? And it's ridiculous. Go on,
I
Zach.
want DDP to start jumping the crowd and just start diamond cutting all the people who are doing the cutter because you sons of ruined that for me.
Yeah,
And
it's the
it's
same
gotta be
as
said,
DDT.
I blame Will Ospreay for this because it was Will that turned it into a mid-match momentum turning maneuver, and that kind of stuck. And everyone wants to be Will Ospreay, so all the indie kids were like, "Oh, Will's doing that. I'm going to do that." And now we see it so much, and now it's not a good finisher anymore. And that's what happens. Happened to the DDT, happened to the sharpshooter. It's like, what happened to all these moves that used to finish matches and used to be so good, like the super kick? Now it's a mid-match momentum turning maneuver. Ruins it.
Moves used to mean something. And
Yep.
I think a large part of the problem with professional wrestling today, Bret Hart's a big critic of it all. If that move, what you're about to do, isn't leading to something, don't do it. Don't do it.
So I will say Jordan Grace had a very interesting take on the move thing, and it kind of made me the cutter is the only one that really like peeves me off because it's still like you're slamming someone's face right into that's knocking them out like that's silly.
Yeah.
But she's saying like the people who use it as a finisher are clearly more effective at it, and you can use it in a higher caliber than someone who's just using it in the middle of a match. They're not masters of the move, as opposed to like Randy's a master of the RKO. That's why his is more effective than Cody doing it with the Cody cut, which it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, it's like, well, Cody's is bouncing off rope and it's the Will Ospreay.
Got you, but there,
His would seem to be more impactful, but I kind of get what you're saying, and I guess we have to our disbelief needs to be just broadened or whatever, because it is wrestling and we're just there to be entertained. But it is just, man, the cutter pisses me off. I can't ever get away from it. It just pisses me off. The diamond cutter was so amazing.
The best move in wrestling history. All right, guys. Well, we are fast running out of time on this therapy session. So, because I just feel like it, we're going to bring in something from In Our Opinion. Guys, what's your least popular wrestling opinion this week? Si?
I don't know. What's yours, Nick?
What's mine? Darby Allin's being overpushed.
What's that?
Darby Allin's being pushed too much.
Kiss my butt. Oh, he
We lost Simon.
So you said Moxley was the heart of AEW earlier. I said he was half because Darby's the other half of AEW. Like, Darby is the guy. To me, Darby is Bryan Danielson during the Yes Movement for AEW. I know that's a crazy comparison.
No. I get your comparison. But
he's DDP in WCW. He's that guy that's like, he is.
Yeah, but Paige wasn't pushed that much. Paige was only pushed in 1998 and 1999. He had this entire run beforehand where he paid his dues. He did what he needed to do. He grew as a wrestler.
Darby paid his dues. That dude
Darby's paid his dues. No, I know. Just let me finish. Darby's paid his dues. But in AEW, they're pushing him too hard. Right? There's a certain point where you push a guy to a certain extent and then you let him fly on his own. Tony Khan has tied his wings back and said, I've got you, kid. I'm going to do this with you. I don't think Darby, my popular impression opinion, I don't think he's ready to be world champion.
When would he ever be ready? If he's not ready now, when would he ever be ready?
No, he'll be ready. He's just not ready yet.
I think he's ready.
No. He's too immature in ring.
No, that's his style. That's his style. Like,
no, not his style. He's immature in the way he executes moves. Right?
I think that's just his style.
I have no problem. I have no problem with a man sacrificing himself to do things. But when you pull a rock out of your pocket and you knock out two of Brody King's teeth because you didn't do the spot properly.
Shit happens.
Shit happens.
Seth Rollins broke John Cena's nose.
All right, true.
Seth Rollins damn near ended Sting's entire career.
No, Sting nearly ended his own career, and he said that.
No, it was the buckle bomb. He didn't
Yeah,
throw
and
him, he didn't have him high enough.
Sting has already turned around and said that was my fault. I didn't protect myself enough.
Because Sting is a class act, and he would never
Yes, he
want
is.
to do that. But Seth didn't get him high enough. So my unpopular opinion. Okay, since we're on the subject of Darby Allin thing, Darby Allin is not only he's the guy who's going to dethrone Moxley. He should be too. He is again every bit the heart and soul of AEW that Jon Moxley's. Like Moxley kept coming back when he was done because they needed him. Darby's done the same thing. He had a broken. He got hit by a bus, and 2 weeks later was doing a freaking death match.
Well, the kid is indestructible,
hanging upside down in the middle of a ring, and like Darby Allin, to me, for me personally, is a top 5 wrestler in the world today based on his believability and what he does in that ring.
Okay,
that's my unpopular opinion. Dale's still watching. His head just exploded.
Right, but we have lost.
There is back in the dark.
What happened?
My Samsung Galaxy decided it needed to do an essential reboot with no notice to me. Didn't press the button or anything. It went off, and it appears to have blown my light at the same time. All I can do is apologize from the dark.
It's all right, dude. Well, just before we go, what is your unpopular wrestling opinion?
Mine was that Darby Allin is a top 5 wrestler in the world today.
Yeah, that's pretty unpopular. I didn't know we were doing this today.
No, we didn't. Not did I. That's why I brought it up.
Bobby Lashley one's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Is that unpopular though? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
I think among the AEW fan base that would be very unpopular.
Okay. I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. No, you got me. I'm in too positive a mindset today. It's hard to come up with one.
This is a good thing. Either way, folks, thanks for joining us. This was Wrestling is Our Therapy, where we just talked wrestling. There's nothing else to do. So, always remember, we are but 3 geeks obsessed with a good show. And our opinion means nothing without yours in the comments below. Jimmy, you want to do some plugging?
Yeah, watch. I'll be returning. Positively Awesome Wrestling is returning this week. I believe this week. I got to get with the other guys, but it's been off for a few weeks because I've been moving. In case you haven't noticed the different setup, and hopefully I'll have some more set up because I love my setup stuff. If not this week, next week for sure. But hopefully that is this week over at the WrestlePlay channel, though, because I don't like doing the extra work now.
That's why I'm hosting.
I push it all on everybody.
If we've still got 30 seconds, I came up with one.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Go on.
Okay. Jade Cargill shouldn't be fighting Bianca at WrestleMania. She should be fighting Charlotte Flair because that is the house match that we all want to see.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's unpopular.
I agree, though.
I hate you.
Oh, that was popular. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. Right, ladies and gents, that's the show. If you enjoy what we do here, if you enjoy what the King does here, if you enjoy what myself and Simon do, you can find me and Simon over at the Wrestling Legion YouTube channel on a regular basis, doing fancy booking, doing all sorts, in our opinion. Whatever we can come up with on a week-to-week basis is what we generally do. It just depends on how drained my brain is of ideas. Soon, you're going to be able to find me over on the Nick the Geek YouTube channel. I'm going to start live streaming gaming. I'm going to be doing Final Fantasy 14. I'm going to be doing Jedi Survivor. I'm going to be doing everything I can for about 6 hours a day. That's going to be starting very soon. So please come and join me over there. I've been your part-time therapist. He has been your king. He has been the blondest man in wrestling media. Thank you very much, Courtney. And we shall see you at some point in the future.
Toodles.
Peace.